Legislative session. Overwhelming, confusing, big, scary. Is this why I'm filming this topic a few days before Halloween? Maybe. But in today's Better Advocacy in 10 minutes or less, we're going to demystify and de-scarify the state legislative session by breaking it down into these 10 easy to understand parts. Yes, I said 10. First is pre-session, then session startup, then phase 1 session, then crossover, then phase 2 session, then conference committees, final votes, closed door negotiations, then final vote part 1, then governor's amendments, then final vote part 2, then governor's signature. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yes. Okay. 10 steps is too much for one video. So we're going to make this into 2 videos. And today we're going to look at the first half. That's pre-session, session startup, phase 1 session, and crossover. There is so much that happens during session, so this video will focus on the official government parts of a legislative session, not all the negotiations, advocacy, and messaging, and all that other stuff you have to do to turn your passion into policy. All right, so let's look at pre-session. This is the time before the legislative session is actually gavelled in. This is when your legislator files the bill. Now, does it matter how early your bill gets filed? Technically, no. But when lobbying legislators, you always want that bill number so they or their aides can easily flag it when it comes up for a vote. You can tell them who the patron is and what the topic is and why it's important, but unless you have that bill number, they won't be able to easily record it. That means your info can easily get lost. If you don't have a bill number, you can still have those meetings, but be sure to follow up with a bill number as soon as you have it. Now, the other thing you'll be looking for during this time is the FIS. That's short for Fiscal Impact Statement. This is the document that the bean counters put out that says how much a bill will cost. It's also a sure way for opponents to kill your bill if you can't justify the cost. I've got another video about that I'll drop a link to in the comments. Legislators pay attention to this differently in different states. In Virginia, they're seen as gospel truth. You can't really fight a FIS all that easily. In other states, they're negotiable. Now, the bill patron will probably get an electronic notification when the FIS drops, so you could ask them to look out for it, or you can check for it using your state's online information system. Now, word of warning, sometimes it won't even come out until after your bill has been heard in committee. Yes, committees. This brings us to the second stage of the legislative session, the session startup. A lot is happening here. First, you'll find out about committee membership changes. Now, most people stay on the same committee from year to year, but occasionally someone will get moved for political reasons. That's the nice way of saying they ticked off someone in leadership. Maybe because a new party is in power, or because there is an opening on a committee they really want to be on. Also, if there's a large turnover in legislators, like what Virginia is about to experience in 2024, you'll want to pay close attention. Committee assignments are usually announced on the first day of session, but may not be posted publicly until 24 hours later. If you can, watch that first day and make sure you have all the right legislators on your contact list. Okay, next up, you're looking to see which committee gets your bill. Now, you probably have a good idea, especially if similar legislation has been heard in the past. But this is key to know because these are the first people that are going to vote on your bill, so they're the ones you need to convince to vote yes before anyone else. And this also gets us to session phase 1. Is there a better name for this? Part 1, session act 1, session the early days. Anyways, this is when your bill actually gets debated and voted on for the first time, in committee and subcommittee if applicable. You'll need to be prepared to present and defend your bill. You'll have given your patron talking points, but you'll still want to have your 2-step speech. I'll drop the link for that in the comments below. And don't be surprised if someone introduces an amendment in committee. There are some that are good, there are some that are bad, some get voted up and some get voted down. There are a lot of variables, so make sure you understand what's being voted on and why, in case you get called to speak to it. If you've shown yourself as the subject matter expert on this issue, your patron will likely have you up front fielding the questions if that's part of your legislature's tradition, because let's be honest, you know more about this issue than your patron does. Now, if your bill makes it through all the craziness of subcommittees and committee hearings, then it's off for a floor vote. This is usually anticlimactic. Few bills that get out of committee are contested on the chamber floor, unless you've got a hot button issue. But still, you want to be mindful and pay attention to any rumblings you hear in the halls or on social media or in the press, because sometimes opposition takes a while to grow, and your bill may not be on your opponent's radar until it makes it through committee. Now, when it's time to vote on the floor, several things can happen. It could be referred back to committee if somebody's got some problems with it. It could be killed outright if it gets voted down, or it could pass. Now, in Virginia, it has to go up for 3 votes over 3 days before it can pass. This is a holdover from the days when hard copies of the bills actually had to be physically passed around, so each legislator would have been able to read the bill. But let's say it happens. You get to the end there. What's happened to your bill? It passed? Congratulations! Your bill made it through the first phase of the legislative session. What do you win? You get to do it all over again in the other chamber. Except for you, Nebraska, with you in your unicameral state house. This next part is called crossover, and that is when your bill physically passes from one chamber and crosses over to the other chamber. Is there any real magic? No. There's usually a deadline somewhere about halfway through your legislative term that crossover has to happen by, that a bill has to make it out of one chamber to get to the next one. But that's it. That's crossover. What happens next? What happens when it goes to the new chamber? What happens over there? You'll just have to stick around for next week's Better Advocacy in 10 minutes or less to find out what happens.